Before we begin, take just a moment and imagine something simple but powerful. In this video, you're going to discover how small moments of kindness toward animals can mean the difference between suffering and survival. You'll see why even the smallest gesture, something as simple as a bowl of water or a little food, can completely change the life of a helpless animal that has no voice to ask for help. And before we continue, make sure to subscribe to the channel and click the bell icon so you never miss more informative and meaningful stories like this one. Now let me ask you something before you keep watching. Where are you watching this video from right now? Take a second and write your country in the comments below. It's always incredible to see how people from different parts of the world come together to watch the same story. No matter where you are, whether it's a busy city, a quiet village, or somewhere in between, there is one thing that connects all of us. We all share this planet with animals who depend on the world around them to survive. And sometimes, whether we realize it or not, they depend on us too. I don't know about you, but there are certain moments that make me stop and think. Moments when you suddenly notice something that most people walk past without even realizing. Maybe it's a stray dog sitting quietly on the side of the road, watching people rush by. Maybe it's a small kitten hiding under a car, waiting for someone kind enough to notice. Animals don't have the ability to ask for help the way humans do. They cannot knock on a door and say they're hungry. They cannot explain that they're injured or scared. All they can do is wait and hope that someone, somewhere will see them and care enough to stop. That simple reality is both heartbreaking and powerful. Because when someone finally does stop, when someone finally notices, that moment can change everything. Think about it for a second. Have you ever helped an animal before? Maybe it was something small. Maybe you left food outside for a hungry stray. Maybe you gave water to an animal on a hot day. Or maybe you helped an injured animal get the care it needed. Even the smallest action can matter more than you think. To us, it might feel like a tiny, ordinary moment in our day. But for that animal, it might be the moment that saved its life. There are countless stories where a single act of compassion made all the difference. Someone choosing not to ignore what they saw. Kindness doesn't have to be grand to be meaningful. Sometimes it's just one person paying attention when everyone else is too busy. The truth is, animals rely on that compassion more than we realize. Have you ever helped an animal, even in a small way? Share your story in the comments. Your experience might inspire someone else to do the same. Because sometimes all it takes to change a life is one person who chooses to stop and care. Maybe it's a dog sitting quietly near the edge of the road, watching every passing person with cautious hope, or a kitten hiding under a bench, its eyes wide with fear. Most of the time, they hesitate, waiting to see whether a person means harm or help. But the moment your eyes meet theirs is the turning point. For animals on the street, every day is a challenge. Finding food and shelter isn't guaranteed. Yet, they continue hoping a simple act, a bowl of water or sharing a little food, can completely change their day. When you choose not to ignore what you see, the story begins to change. At first, that change is almost invisible. Nothing dramatic happens right away. For animals that have spent time surviving on the streets, trust doesn't come easily. You might place a little food nearby and step back, just enough to show you mean no harm. This hesitation is not stubbornness, it's survival. Every movement is something to evaluate. Slowly, cautiously, the animal takes a small step forward. Another step follows. This is the moment where fear begins to give way to curiosity, the first step toward trust. The animal lowers its head and takes the first bite. For them, it can mean everything. It's as if the animal realizes that not every human presence brings danger. It begins with a person who noticed and a person who cared enough to help. 연민은 거창한 몸짓이나 특별한 훈련을 필요로 하지 않습니다. 때로는 주의 깊은 관심과 기꺼이 행동하려는 마음만이 필요할 뿐입니다. 동물이 아주 작은 친절이라도 경험하게 되면 그 내면에서 무언가가 바뀌기 시작합니다. 세상은 더 이상 완전히 적대적으로 느껴지지 않게 되죠. 모든 움직임을 지배했던 두려움은 천천히 사라지고 그 자리를 조심스러운 호기심이 대신하게 됩니다. 여전히 거리를 둘 순 있지만 눈빛에 담긴 패닉은 사라집니다. 이 동물들은 관찰력이 뛰어납니다. 누군가 반복적으로 친절을 베풀면 그들은 기억하기 시작합니다. 목소리, 발소리, 심지어 사람이 접근하는 방식까지도요. 신뢰는 단 한순간에 쌓이지 않습니다. 자신이 안전하다는 것을 보여주는 반복된 경험을 통해 조각조각 아주 천천히 자라납니다. 이제 무언가가 달라졌습니다. 즉시 도망가는 대신 그 자리에 머뭅니다. 이 작은 변화는 동물이 당신의 친절이 일시적이지 않다고 믿기 시작했다는 증거입니다. 시간이 흐르면서 그들 사이의 거리는 점점 더 좁아집니다. 때로는 부드러운 목소리가 자신의 불안을 진정시키도록 허락하기도 합니다. 아마도 이 사람은 진심으로 자신을 아껴주는 사람일지도 모른다고 생각하는 것이죠. 작은 친절이 모여 견고한 신뢰가 되는 순간입니다. For animals that have spent their lives avoiding humans, these steps are enormous. What we might see as a simple interaction, standing nearby while an animal eats, can represent a major turning point in that animal's life. It means the wall of fear is slowly beginning to break down. And when that wall begins to fall, something remarkable happens. The animal's personality begins to appear. The quiet, frightened creature that once hid in the shadows may reveal curiosity, playfulness, or even affection. It may start wagging its tail when it sees the person approaching. A once cautious kitten might step forward with hesitant but hopeful energy. These are moments that many animal rescuers and caregivers describe as deeply emotional, because they show that beneath the fear and struggle, there was always a living being capable of trust and connection. All it needed was an opportunity. And that opportunity often comes from one person choosing to notice what others overlook. But the story doesn't end there. In many cases, the bond that begins with a small act of kindness grows into something even stronger. The animal may start following the person for short distances. It may sit nearby, observing quietly, as if trying to understand this unexpected friendship. Sometimes the animal simply waits, waiting for the moment when the familiar person appears again. For animals that have lived without stability, even the smallest sense of routine can feel like safety. A bowl of food placed in the same spot, a calm voice speaking gently, a human presence that no longer feels threatening. These repeated moments slowly reshape the animal's understanding of the world. And as that understanding changes, something powerful begins to happen, not just for the animal, but for the person helping it as well. Because helping an animal often reminds us of something we sometimes forget in our busy lives. That compassion, even in its simplest form, has the power to transform both sides of the story. At first, the person helping might think they are simply doing something small, leaving food, offering water, or checking on the animal from time to time. Might feel like a simple act of kindness that takes only a few minutes out of the day. But slowly, something deeper begins to develop. The connection becomes personal. You start to notice things about the animal that others might not see. The way it waits quietly in the same place, the way its ears lift when it hears your footsteps approaching, the cautious but hopeful look in its eyes whenever you arrive. What began as a moment of concern slowly turns into responsibility. You begin wondering whether the animal ate enough that day. You think about whether it has a safe place to sleep at night. If the weather becomes colder or the rain starts falling, your thoughts return to that small life you chose to help. And without even realizing it, you start caring more than you expected. For many people who have helped animals before, this is the moment when everything changes. The situation stops feeling temporary. Instead, it begins to feel like the start of a relationship built on patience and trust. The animal senses this change as well. Animals are incredibly sensitive to human behavior. They notice tone, movement, and intention in ways that often go beyond what we expect. When a person approaches calmly, speaks gently, and consistently returns with kindness, animals begin to respond. The frightened distance that once existed begins to disappear. One day, the animal might step closer than it ever has before. It might pause just within reach, still cautious but no longer overwhelmed by fear. In some cases, it might even allow the briefest touch, a moment so small it might last only a second. But that second means everything, because it represents the moment when trust finally begins to replace survival instinct. For animals that have lived without safety, learning to trust again is not easy. It requires repeated proof that the world is not entirely dangerous. It requires patience from the person helping, understanding that progress will come slowly. Some days the animal may seem more distant again. Loud noises, unfamiliar people, or sudden movements can bring old fears rushing back. But with consistency, those fears begin to lose their power. Gradually, the animal starts to behave differently. The tail of a once nervous dog may begin to wag more freely. These small behavioral changes are signs of something important. They show that the animal is beginning to feel safe, something many street animals rarely experience. But when kindness becomes part of their routine, the animal learns that not every human will ignore it. And sometimes, someone will come back. That change doesn't happen overnight. It happens through consistency, through calm voices, gentle movements, and showing up again and again. When those experiences become positive, their entire understanding of the world begins to shift. The stranger slowly becomes someone safe. Perhaps it even begins to greet you in its own quiet way. Every step forward represents a victory over fear. These moments may seem small, but they are incredibly meaningful. They mark the point where trust has grown strong enough to overcome instinct. Because in the end, patience and repeated kindness can slowly turn what once felt like a hopeless situation into a completely new chapter. And once that barrier begins to fall, everything changes. The animal that once survived alone now begins to experience something it may never have known before: comfort. The simple presence of a kind human becomes something reassuring rather than threatening. For the person who helped, these moments are unforgettable. They remind us that kindness, even when it feels small, has real impact. It can transform a frightened animal into one that feels safe again. It can give a struggling life the chance to recover, to rest, and to exist without constant fear. But something else happens too. The person who chose to help also begins to change. Helping an animal often awakens a deeper sense of awareness about the world around us. We begin to notice things we once overlooked: the quiet presence of animals living alongside us, the challenges they face, and the difference compassion can make. We start to realize that these lives matter, and that realization can spread. Sometimes a single act of kindness inspires others to do the same. Someone watching might decide to leave water outside during a hot day. Another person might stop to help an injured animal they would have once ignored. Kindness in this way becomes something contagious. It moves from one person to another, quietly influencing actions that ripple outward in ways we rarely see. And the animals, of course, are the ones who feel the difference most directly. A once hungry dog now eats regularly. A frightened kitten now sleeps peacefully. An animal that once expected the worst from the world begins to experience something entirely different: safety. Because every life deserves to feel secure. But perhaps the most powerful lesson in stories like this is how simple the beginning often was. There was no grand plan, no complicated effort. Just one moment where someone noticed something that others passed by. One moment where a person decided not to ignore what they saw. And that moment changed everything. So now let me ask you again, just like we did at the beginning. Where are you watching this from? People from all over the world are seeing this story right now. Different countries, different cultures, different languages, but the same simple truth connects all of us. Animals exist everywhere, and opportunities to show kindness exist everywhere too. Maybe tomorrow you'll notice something you didn't see before. Maybe you'll pass by a place where an animal is quietly waiting, hoping someone will stop. If that moment ever comes, remember something important. You don't have to do something huge to make a difference. Sometimes a small act, a bowl of water, a little food, or simply taking the time to care can mean more than you imagine. Because to that animal, you might not just be another passerby. You might be the one person who noticed, the one person who stopped, the one person who cared. And sometimes that is enough to change an entire life. If this story meant something to you, share your thoughts in the comments. Tell us if you've ever helped an animal before, even in the smallest way. Your story might inspire someone else to act. Your story might inspire someone else to act the next time they see an animal in need. And if you believe that kindness still matters in this world, don't forget to subscribe and turn on the bell, so you can join us for more stories that remind us how powerful compassion can be. Because sometimes the most important change in the world begins with something very simple: someone choosing to care.